Delia and I spent the morning doing house chores. Well, Delia did the chores, and I talked her ear off. Per her request. I don't see why you won't at least let me help you carry the laundry up, I sighed. Delia gave me a look of disapproval, Miss Rowan. I've already told you. This is my job. If Kai were to find out that you were doing my work, he'd throw me out faster than you can say but. But I interrupted. I'm not trying to do your work, I'm trying to help. Delia only shook her head. You're helping me enough by keeping me company. You're soon going to be a master of this house, along with Kai. I wouldn't want you attempting to lower your status by taking on my workload. I couldn't help but feel bad. Delia, every human works at some point in their lives. It's not beneath anyone's status to do laundry. Plus, I don't want you thinking I'll turn into Kai the minute we get married. I enjoy helping, truly. I wasn't lying. Not about most of it anyway. I hated that she thought of herself as an inferior, but I was definitely not going to marry the master of the house. Delia sent me a small smile before picking up a large basket full of clothes. He's not all bad. You know, you're a kind person, Miss Rowan. You'll do a lot of good here. Damn it. I'm not sure about all of that. I haven't been doing anything but irritating Kai every time we're in the same room together. Delia sent me a disbelieving look. He doesn't seem to be irritated by you at all during our conversations. If anything, he seems to care about you. I wanted to laugh. Bitterly, of course, but I also had to play everything just the right way. Does he? He'll make a happy couple once you're married. Relationships like these always seem rocky at first. Relationships like forced marriages? Yeah, Elle gathered that. Began to walk towards the steps. I'm going to put these in Kai's room. But we'll be heading outside here in a moment, if you'd like to join me. I wasn't particularly interested in going outside without a suitcase, and a one-way ticket out of there, but Elle gave her a nod anyway. It might do me some good to get some fresh air. After a few short moments, Delia was back downstairs. If you'll follow me, I'll lead you to the gardens. I've seen them out of the windows of the house multiple times, and never quite thought to go out myself and look. I quickly began walking with Delia to the back side of the house, where a set of French lattice doors led to one of the most gorgeous gardens he had ever seen. Granted. I had seen it before, but this time I felt like I could actually take it all in. When I was younger, the outside to me was something that never changed too much. The seasons, of course, would alter nature's appearance, but the trees were still trees, even leafless. And the grass was still grass underneath the snow. It was a constant I knew I could rely on, and it comforted my senses of familiarity. Do you like it? Delia asked, as if my face wasn't dripping in awe. Like it? I swallowed. I feel like I'm seeing it all for the first time. I was, in a way. Delia smiled. You know, that's how people can be. You change your feelings and your perception once you really look at them and give them a chance to change how you view. I looked at her. What do you mean? Delia turned back to look at the garden. This is Kai's favorite place in the entire house, but don't tell him told you that, or he'd deny it. It's not like we talked much, I sighed. And that makes you upset? Delia responded. I may be a housemaid, but I'm not stupid. It doesn't take a genius to see that you aren't happy here. I took a step back. Oh, I know Kai can seem harsh, but he's been through a lot. You're the last person he'd truly want to hurt. I laughed slightly. If only you saw the real him behind closed doors, then you'd understand how I feel. Delia looked at me, her eyes reflecting that of almost sadness I have. He wasn't all that bad when he was younger. You see his parents as rich and providing as they are for him. Open doors in his life that can really change someone. What do you mean? It's not my place to speak on my employers, but it's important to know that Kai wasn't harsh at first. He was a young man after books and art. He loved his culture and his friends. That changed a few years ago. Now you must bring him back. This wasn't going anywhere but getting worse. How could I convince someone to help me leave if they were so wrapped up in our marriage and philosophy to think about how I felt? Elle can't bring back something that's already lost, I said. But you can. Jenny ni zemren tuaj. You're skipter? I asked. She nodded. If my accent didn't give it away, I'm not sure how else to represent. I laughed. Her accent was thick. I must have been too occupied with my own thoughts and problems to notice a sister. I see you're one as well, she smiled. I nodded. Only half. My mother is from Greece. When people ask, I just say that I'm Balkan to make things easier. Delia smiled. Sometimes I do too. My point still stands though. Please give him a chance. You speak as if I have a choice, I returned with slight irritation. I had given him countless chances. Delia placed a hand on my shoulder. It doesn't seem that way right now, but you always have a choice. Exactly, which is why I want to leave. That's my choice. I sighed. It's not that simple though. She clicked her tongue. How so? Can I trust you? I asked. I immediately regretted throwing such a question at her, but she'd never understand if I didn't explain it. She looked at me for a second before responding cautiously, yes, I didn't want this. I never did. Our parents forced this on us for reasons I don't know completely, and this whole relationship between us has been strained and completely disintegrated. As if we had a strong relationship foundation to start with. Well, just don't think it's right to force it anymore. We're clearly unhappy, and I feel like if we go through with the wedding, it'll only get worse. I want to make the right decision for both of us and release him of the chains that bind us together. I sat back and took a breath. I had never spoken about how I truly felt out loud to anyone, and now that I had, even if it was to someone as biased as Delia, I was glad that I did. Delia thought for a moment. So you want to leave? Is that what you think will help him? It's more for myself, but... Yeah, I looked at her. I mean, he won't be tied down with someone as childish and tasteless as I am. He'll be able to choose who he wants to spend the rest of his life with, and I'll be able to be free. That's selfish, Miss Rowan. What? Selfish? How? I know you think running away and avoiding him will help this situation, but it won't. This officially had me angry. You don't know the details, Delia. You aren't in my position. I'm sure you'd do the same thing. She shook her head. You're right, Miss Rowan. I don't know all of the details, but I would never give up. I believe in fate. And I think you should give him a chance. For both of you. He rubbed my temples. It's easy to judge from the outside, but it's not as simple as you're making it seem. He hates me. He only speaks to me like I'm below him, and it's always a critique or an insult. Delia turned towards the garden once more. Here, follow me. Annoyed, I followed her to the edge of a pond. It gorgeous, the waters were shining and looked like velvet. In the middle, lily pads and lotus flowers decorated the surface. Maybe your relationship is like the lotus flower, she pointed to a large pink and white bloom in the center. Rooted in muddy and murky waters, you'd never think it had a chance to flourish into an alluring flower, but in reality, that's what it needs to prevail. An ugly situation can turn into a beautiful one with time, and, well, love. Delia had a way with words, but I don't think Kai and I would ever be able to make a lotus out of our dysfunctional pond. Sometimes plants die before they have a chance to grow. Don't let this be that result. I stayed silent. In any other situation, Delia would have an excellent point. This, however, was not such a situation. I will leave you alone to think. I don't want to force you to do anything if your heart isn't completely set on it. I think you've been forced enough for a while, Delia said softly. After she left, I let out a large sigh. She had good intentions, but Kai would never allow our relationship to grow outside of anything but disdain and utter hatred. I didn't want to fertilize that kind of lotus. A small frog hopped on a lily pad for a moment before hopping back into the water. If only I could be a frog. Elle would be happier there than here. It was time to leave.